Hello everyone, I am 22 Tiger Dude, the one and only, and welcome to Animation Domination. I continue this wonderful tradition, and as I review the episodes in the order that Animation Domination airs them, let's go ahead and start off with the Cleveland show. And this episode is about when Cleveland's dad named Freight Train, of course you know who he is if you've seen the show, he adopts Robert Tubbs, which makes him Cleveland's brother. By the way, did I say adopts? I meant adopt. He adopted him. Sorry about my grammar. This episode, it was good. I liked this episode. It was enjoyable. It had its funny moments. It's not my favorite, but to be straightforward, it was enjoyable by surprise. And usually, I'm not too big of a fan of episodes that have Freight Train in there because Freight Train is really a D-bag, the douchebag. And whenever he makes an appearance, and I don't like that character, I never did. He's just a bad father to Cleveland. I feel bad for him. Even the mother doesn't do anything about it, so. But this is actually a good episode. And compared to the other episodes I've seen Freight Train in, yeah, he's not nowhere near as jerky as he was here. I mean, here he was kind of a jerk and all, but it doesn't really bug me as much. It bugs me a little, though. The problems I had with the episode was that some parts were uninteresting, they were boring, and some of the humor falls flat, kinda. But, you know, if you like this show, you'll like this episode. If you hate the show, maybe you'll hate this episode. Or if you're like me, if I don't really enjoy the show too much, but I end up liking this episode. So, and it could go either way, you know? It could go either way. Everyone just have their own point of views, their own take on things. And that's what makes it interesting about the world. So, and I don't believe that's my first time I said that. So, it's nicely written, it's decent, it's funny in some moments, while other moments falls flat. Freight Train was actually pretty decent here, and definitely, if I were to name the highlight, it would definitely have to be when Robert was in Cleveland's room, and Cleveland and him were having a little fight, and that was probably the most funniest part of the whole episode, in my opinion. So, in the end, I will give this Cleveland show episode a 7 out of 10. The Simpsons. Alright, so this Simpsons episode is about when Mr. Burns, he uses up all the electricity prices that leaves most of Springfield unable to afford to use the electricity. And so, when the schools cannot afford to use it, they have to decide to test every single student in Springfield, every single student in each of the elementary schools, and whichever elementary school gets the lowest scores, they will close down that school forever. And then there's like a little suspicion that only one student has not taken that test, and that student is Bart. So now it's up to Bart to pass this test, and everything lies on Bart, because if he does not study for his test and pass it, Springfield Elementary will be closed forever, and Bart will be the reason why everyone gets ruined. So it's up to him to actually be responsible and take the situation seriously. And I gotta say, this was a well-made episode. I almost love this episode. It was really well done. A couple of parts I felt like could have been cut out. So that was really my only issue because it didn't feel necessary. It felt a little boring to me. But other than that, I found to be an enjoyable treat. And I really enjoy the plot because it's very interesting. It's funny, but it's very interesting. And then to see Bart study for it, and just the whole episode overall, it's creative. They really went all out with this episode. I could tell the writers really went all their hardest. And the Homer subplot was pretty funny too, but merely the one that grabs my attention the most is definitely the main plot, because You want to see Bart save Springfield Elementary, even though he doesn't like elementary school and, not school in general. But it's a nice episode. It's very well made. It's very well written. It's very creative. And in the end, it's good to see that Bart was actually the hero of the episode, because obviously you'll know what happens at the end. Very enjoyable. I loved almost every moment of it. Plus, this episode was dedicated to Hugh Hauser, and he died of prostate cancer on January 7th, so rest in peace to him. But that was not to dedicate that episode to that person. And I thought that was sweet when I saw that at the end. Although, it was quick though. They only showed it for like half a second, then boom, end credits. So, I felt like they could have showed it at least maybe 2 seconds long. So overall, definitely check out this episode. Recommend it. I loved at least the majority of the episode. So I'm going to give this episode a 9.5 out of 10. We go on to Bob's Burgers now. And for this episode, it's about when Daryl and the Belcher kids, they set up a business for kids to play in a nearby nude beach. And there's this plot where Hugo quits being the inspector just to go into the nude beach. So Bob gets a new inspector, and that's really all I have to say. Plus the kids, they all go into the nude beach as well, and I guess kind of view it. And I'm going to be honest. If you guys have seen my past Animation Domination videos, you know I am not a fan of Bob's Burgers. I don't think it's the best show ever. I even mentioned a couple of times, why is it so popular? Like, I'm questioning why it has so many fans. But this episode surprised me. This is actually, in fact, the best episode of the season so far. I actually loved this episode. It was funny. It was original. There was no annoying parts. No annoying parts in Bob's Burgers. Sing hallelujah to me. Hallelujah. 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 It's a miracle. It was just all around funny. It was clever. It was well written. And definitely very, very refreshing. So if you're a Bob's Burgers fan, you're definitely going to really enjoy this episode. The whole nude beach thing, it's hilarious. I actually cracked up pretty much throughout the whole episode. It was cleverly written, and as I said, it's not annoying at all. Even Tina had her moments of being funny. The kids were funny. They didn't even seem to annoy me. Bob was actually funny. He actually had, what do you call, character here. So that's really all I have to say about this episode. It's just really good. It's my favorite of the season so far. No problems at all, which is shocking to me. And it's just an episode to really enjoy. So it cracked me up, and I'm going to give this episode a 10 out of 10. My first 10 out of 10 for a Bob's Burgers episode of the season. Hey Brian, I'm Stewie, and we are here to review Family Guy. Okay, that was kind of a weird Stewie impression. I'm sorry if it sucked, but anyways, let's ignore my horrible Stewie impression, and let's get to Family Guy. And how I'm going to review this episode is going to be kind of odd, because what I'm going to rate at the end is going to be a little weird, so just kind of bear with me and try to follow me what I'm trying to say for this episode. Alright, this Family Guy episode is when Brian writes a play. Everyone seems to love it, and then Brian finds out from Stewie that his play was actually a piece of crap. And his play was so crappy and so cliched that it's so laughable. And so it makes it seem like that everyone enjoyed it, but they're laughing at it because of the fact of how bad the play was. And then Brian is just like shaking with anxiety and all that because he read Stewie's play and he saw that Stewie's play was actually more better written than his play. And so Brian tries to go in his power to get rid of the script. No one find out about it. And that's really all the episode takes you. So I'm going to describe this episode. This is gonna be a weird how I review this episode. I don't hate this episode, but I don't like this episode. And the episode's not even remotely okay for me. Sounds weird, huh? I know. Now, I'm just going to say it right now. This is at least a merely enjoyable episode. So it's not horrible or anything like that. It's just not very good. It does have its strong points, but not quite strong enough to get a higher grade for me or for me to really enjoy more. But the weird thing is that this episode was actually somewhat enjoyable. The storyline's not very good, yeah. There's not much humor here, to be honest. And the ending was just atrocious. But I don't know, the whole Brian thing, yeah, I didn't like Brian, and the episode got boring. It had its funny moments, it had its nice standout points, and you get a couple of nice Stewie Brian moments, so that's nice. It's just not a very good episode, but I find it somewhat enjoyable. And this is actually an episode I could watch again at least once in a while if I get bored. Only if I get bored, there's nothing else good to watch on television, and they're showing this on the air, I will rewatch this episode. And what I'm going to give it is weird. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 10. Yeah, it's that low, but I don't know. For some reason, this is one of those not so good episodes I could rewatch at least once in a while. So overall, not very good, but somewhat enjoyable. So, yeah. Now we get to American Dad, which I believe has one of the longest titles that the series ever has, because the name of this episode is The Adventures of Twill Organbone and His Boy Jabari. So, yeah. Alright, so this American Dad episode, it was great. I really enjoyed it. Not my favorite, but you know, it's just nicely written. I guess that's how you can say. It has some clever writing. The thing that did bug me though was Roger, how he wasn't really taking the whole hard work ship seriously, because the plot of this episode is that Francine teaches Roger the value of hard work. And so Roger's like jogging every day, or at least supposedly he was, and then Francine finds out that he isn't. And so I guess you could say that Roger lost Francine's respect because of all the lies he told him. So I guess he makes it up to Francine by taking her on this Indiana Jones adventure, I guess you could say, because they go into this cave. So that's how the episode goes. And then meanwhile in this episode, Steve has to tell Stan an interview, but Stan doesn't want to do the interviews. And so Steve calls Stan during his lunch hour, and he just talks on the phone. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. First of all, I'm going to describe the subplot. The subplot was Steve talking to Stan. It was downright dirty, but it was so funny. I laughed my ass off in that part, because Stan's just describing the dirty things he does with Francine and her boobs, and Steve's friends are enjoying it. So it cracked me up. Although my flaw with that though was how that subplot ended. It just ended, I guess, maybe, I don't know, depressingly and not funny. So I was kind of disappointed in how that subplot ended. But for the most part, that subplot cracked me up. And I enjoyed the main plot too. The main plot was funny too. And Roger, although he's annoyed me lately in the season, and he annoyed me a little here, but he was actually funny here. I actually found him to be an enjoyable character. And I'm glad that in the end, he actually did learn the value of hard work, and that he actually gained Francine's respect. So that's the positives to this episode. A few unnecessary parts, and well, a few parts I didn't find funny, one of them being the ending of that subplot. But definitely, this is an episode for All American Dad fans to enjoy, and it's just great. That's all I'm going to put it at there. So I'm going to give this American Dad episode, Good Morning USA, an 8.5 out of 10. Subscribe to my channel. Comment and give me your thoughts on each of the Animation Domination premieres. Like and share this video. I hope you all enjoyed this, and don't forget that I will always have